Well, we're back, everybody. The Pinning Combination is getting ready for another winter full of high school and college wrestling, and maybe even outside of those two realms as well. Getting ready for a big winter season. I'm KJ Pilcher from the Gazette, along with Dick Briggs, and your wrestling season has already started with officiating at the middle school level, so you're probably already in mid-season form, right?
Well, I hope so by now. I have had 10 dates, a few middle school, and probably a little bit more, maybe 6 and 4 sort of thing with youth tournaments. So I've been around the state all the way over to Mississippi twice and up to Benton and places in between. So I guess Mississippi 3 times. So.
Wow. So we're going to take a little bit of a different direction for the start of this podcast. One of the reasons, as you can see, we're without our dear friend Wyatt Schultz, Grant Wyatt Schultz, who passed away earlier this year, a couple months ago. Something that hit the wrestling community pretty hard. I think it hit us pretty hard. Obviously our thoughts have been with Kirsten and the rest of his family. But we wanted to take this time to really give a tribute to Wyatt as a friend, as a colleague, and just as a person in general. I tell you, he's somebody that is missed, will be sorely missed as things progress. And, Dick, I think one of the things he would like for, to share the stories that we remember and that really bring a smile to our face, even though it's going to be a lot different, even weird not having him a part of this weekly podcast with us.
Right. I've already missed him. At those tournaments that I've been to, he would have been there at a number of them. One was up at in Dubuque at the Five Flag Center, and we've got a picture right here of Wyatt, and this is at the national qualifier for the D3 tournament, and that's actually Kyle that he's on the mat side of, and that's my memory of Wyatt. He's just always there, always on the mat side with the camera in hand, generally in a light blue shirt, his predicament shirt, and just doing his thing, and always with a smile on his face, and so yeah, he will be missed, and he already is missed, and again, we're thinking a whole lot about him and missing him here in our podcast, and he brought so much to it. But he was a guy that wasn't looking for accolades, but received a ton. He had received in his lifetime a lot of awards and such, and so I'm glad that happened while he is still with us, and he was able to enjoy those. He things that he brought with to wrestling, just briefly. I mean, a ton of things, but with his predicament magazine and website, that as far as I know, I think there was only 2, maybe it might have been the third owner that was there briefly, and in the about 50-year history of the magazine, I'm going to guess 50 years ago. I mean, it was around when I was a kid, and the Siemens ran it from Emmitsburg, I believe, and then he bought it from them. But with the predicament, the things that Wyatt brought that we no longer have, and we're kind of missing those already, like the rankings, preseason rankings. KJ, I bet you're missing those. That he put together and his staff put together.
Right. It's interesting you kind of mentioned missing him at the tournaments. One of the first things my wife asked me at the end of October when UNI Iowa had their media days. When I came home from one of them, one of the first things she asked was, how strange was it not having Wyatt there? And, you know, he's somebody that I rode to some of these things with, you know, always talked to during these things. And, you know, it was strange just because he wasn't there, you know, and like you said, that smile that always accompanied him, it didn't matter whether it was media day, whether it was a tournament, whether it was a state tournament, a weekly dual meet, that was genuine because he loved the sport and he loved the people that were dedicated to the sport. And, you know, that's what made things really special. And I'm glad you mentioned the fact that, you know, he wasn't one that he didn't necessarily like the spotlight, right? He always liked being the one behind the camera, you know, but he was willing to do all those things that made him uncomfortable for the sport. You know, how many times if we got done with a podcast, he's like, oh, you know, I would mess that up, or I was nervous or something. And it's like, Wyatt, you're fine. But he was just willing to do that stuff, even though, you know, he'd rather be behind the scenes. He'd rather be taking the pictures. He'd rather be compiling rankings for, you know, for people to discuss and posting video and stuff. I remember when he first started doing video interviews on his own. He's like, I'm not good at this. I just want to hold the camera, but he did it anyway. It was one of those things where whatever it was for the sport that they needed, even if it was at great cost to him, he was willing to do it. And, you know, that was pretty special. And it's not necessarily the motivation that a lot of people have, you know, but that was Wyatt.
Yeah, and you know, when he first started doing those videos, you're right, he was uncomfortable. He asked me to critique him and you know, see if I could come up with some tips and that sort of thing, which I did, but it wasn't very much. He did a nice job, and you know, just he kind of wanted feedback and was not willing, you know, not unwilling to hear it, and whether it was good or bad. So I mean, that's why, and I mean, you know, but you know, other things that he brought with his predicament website, youth tournament listings. You know, that, like I said, I've been to a lot of those, and you can't. There's no place that I'm aware of yet that's, you know, taken that over. The forum for the wrestling people to talk at all levels, high school levels, middle school, freestyle, college, you know, all levels of college, girls, you know, wrestling. So you know, he had that forum to talk with. He had dedicated a link to the Iowa Wrestling Coaches and Officials Association. Now they're having to put one together, so you know, to have that. The articles and photos, that hundreds and hundreds of photos that he took and, you know, dedicated to the Iowa high school wrestlers. He did the academic all-state team. So who's going to his tournament? What's the Iowa versus the USA high school?
The dream team. He helped put together the dream team.
Right. I mean, just so many things that he did, and didn't do it for pay, didn't do it for accolades. He just did it because it was the betterment of keeping wrestling on the move.
Right, and that's it's funny you mentioned his tagline too, because that's, you know, that's really where I kind of started. You know, I mentioned, well, first, you know, got to give kudos to Andy Hamilton, you know, for Wyatt's visitation. He edited kind of a lot of memories and kind of reflections that a lot of people in the wrestling community had, coaches, media members that worked with and alongside him. One of those you know, stories I shared was the first time I covered a wrestling event with him. And it was the Five Seasons duels at when I was split between Cedar Rapids, Washington, and Kennedy. And for the think it was towards the end of the semis or the beginning of the finals. Apple Valley was there. This guy with a camera was sitting on his butt in the corner of the mat with his feet crossed and just kind of holding his camera so. And, I just sat down and started taking notes. And, he's like, where are you from? And like I said, I think this was 2002. We started talking like we had known each other for years. And, I'd like to think that was a special moment, but you know what? It wasn't, because Wyatt was that way with just about every damn person he came across.
It was special because it was Wyatt.
Oh yeah, that's right. And it didn't have to be wrestling. He was just open and liked to talk, and just enjoyed socializing with people. I think that came out in his passion for the sport too, because he'd go all over, keeping wrestling on the move. I mean, I remember getting in his van once, and the first weekend we'd go to West Delaware or Independence to start out, and then we'd end up at Keith Young for the semis and finals on that same weekend. And that was common for him. He was willing to do that. Put a lot of miles on those vans, man. But that, and it was all for the wrestlers. I even have to say, with covering the sport of wrestling, which I love a lot, sometimes, I like hearing, hey, this was a good story, or I like seeing my byline associated with, the sport. And in Prit, Wyatt was, it was all for the wrestlers.
Yeah.
It was all for the wrestlers, all for the sport. And I can't echo and hammer that point home enough. And that's something that it's going to leave a big hole to fill, and that's for sure.
Right. Sorry.
Well, go ahead with your thought.
I did. I did attend the visitation on Friday night. It was hugely attended, as you might guess, and it was a Friday night during football season, so a lot of the coaches that I think pull double duty and coach or have some sort of business being at the football games probably weren't able to show up then, but showed up on Saturday. So, I waited probably an hour to get to the family. And when I finally got to Kirsten, and I'm not ashamed to say it, I broke down. She's the one consoling me when you're supposed to be the one consoling her. And I was like, oh, geez, by the time I got over to Grant, I couldn't hardly talk, So, and it was just, it was a neat night, because there were so many people that were, went out of their way to honor Wyatt to and anyway, one last photo. This was from another of our, I don't know if you can see all that reflection there, but there's another one of Wyatt and I, and kind of proud of that picture. My wife took that one, so that's typical smile there, isn't it?
Yeah, right.
There's times when Wyatt had that kind of cat swallowed the canary kind of look, and it's right there, kind of.
Yeah, for sure. A couple things I wanted to share about him as well. In 2009, I suffered a staph infection, and when diagnosed for a while, I got really sick. I was in the ICU for 4 days. And it was kind of hairy there for a little bit. But when I came to, the very first person that came to see me that wasn't a family member was Wyatt. And I remember him coming into the room, and the first thing he did was just give me a big giant hug. Didn't really say anything, didn't need to say anything. But it was kind of a comforting thing. It showed, a lot of, he didn't have to. I mean, he had come to find out at the time, I think he had just lost a brother while I was in the ICU. So he had other things to deal with. He had his own loss to get through, but yet he was the first one that wasn't a family member to come see me and make sure I was okay. And, again, that was Wyatt. And the week I got out of the hospital, actually, Kirsten and him had we had Keely and Katie were younger, so they had us over for dinner. Chris was under a lot of strain trying to take care of me at home. We had some family that helped with the daughters, and she was working, full time, obviously. So they stepped in, like many people do, but Wyatt and Kirsten, had us over for dinner and stuff like that to help take care of things. The other thing too, and it used to irritate the bejesus out of me, no matter how early, usually when I get someplace, say be there at 1:30, if I'm there at 1:29:59, I'm on time. But Wyatt would, if he wasn't 15 minutes early, or maybe even 30 minutes early, he was late. So I would end up going to these tournaments, and I'd try like, I'm like, Chris, I'm going to beat him there. I'm going to beat him there. So I'd get there beforehand sometimes, and he'd be there with his coffee and smiling, and he'd walk by and goes, you just get here? Where have you been? And it's like, son of a gun. But, he was early to rise. If he had his coffee and everything, he was good to go. And, that fueled him. And he always liked to kind of needle me that way. And then with his pens, it was a long running joke with his pens. Yep, there you go. The first time he gave me one, it conked out like within minutes. So I always teased him about pens. And of course, every time I saw him, hey, one pen. So, no, those are fond memories of Wyatt. And I tell you, I know it's going to hit again when the prep stuff starts. Because, I saw him more during prep events than college stuff, just because things are structured differently, during the events. But I know the following week when we're at West Delaware and Waverly Shell Rock and then Independence on Saturday, which I hope I'm not letting the cat out of the bag on this at all, but Independence, Wyatt was a part of carrying out that tournament, the Cliff Keen tournament up there in Independence. They're going to have awards in his honor, named after Wyatt. I think one of them might be for the MVP, one of them might be for most falls, and then one for the wrestler that places highest above his seed, which I think is probably the most that's probably the one that probably suits Wyatt, because he always loved those guys that work their butts off. Obviously, you talk to the stars and stuff like that, or the high achievers, but even those guys that, say they were seeded 8th and they finished 3rd or something like that, those were guys that caught his attention and he had a lot of respect for. So I think that one's very fitting to have Wyatt's name on it.
Right. And I think at that tournament, don't they seed all the way down to like 32nd or whatever? So it could be a 32nd going up to a 15th or something. So, and I believe that is the case, because I talked to Michael Doyle at the Wartburg meet last week, and that's what he indicated to me as well, was that award I think was going to be, I don't know if that was 100% sure, but that's when he did indicate. So that would be so appropriate for Wyatt.
Okay. Any final thoughts?
I probably should share one story. It's kind of fun. Jefferson, when I was coaching there, we held an athletic auction, and my brother contributed a flight to Prairie du Chien, Wisconsin. My brother Don owns a Piper airplane, and so Wyatt purchased it the first year, and he invited me to go because he didn't know Don, and so he knew me kind of to bridge the gap, which wouldn't take long with Wyatt anyway. But so we went up and had dinner at a steak place up there, and then on the way back, he asked us to fly around his farm because he's from Postville area. So we went over and flew, put it on wingtip and flew it around, and Wyatt was taking pictures and going, "This is where my brother and I did this," and had fun. So the next year, same thing. Only Wyatt purchases the flight and dinner, and only this time, since I had gone last time, he invited John Haggerty. So it's John Haggerty, assistant coach at Jefferson for a long time, and then also my brother Don, of course, and Kirsten was there. So there's the four of them, and they're having dinner. And at dinner, Wyatt says, "This is such a wonderful day, wonderful flight, great company." And he reaches in his pocket, pulls out a ring, and proposes to Kirsten. And it was a touching moment. But my brother and John felt pretty much out of place, so they kind of excused themselves from the table and let him settle it. And I think they excused him before they actually heard whether Kirsten accepted or not. Of course, we all know that she did.
Right.
Fun story for Wyatt.
For sure. And one other thing too, it didn't matter what sport it was. I mean, wrestling obviously was his forte, but you'd see him at Kingston. I know he took a trip up to MFL to watch MFL Marmac and Edco play football. You'd see him at track meets. I know baseball, he was helping Matt Shannon with baseball and softball. So he was very dedicated to athletes of all seasons as well. And there's one other thing I was going to say, but I forgot. Oh, the podcast. I know we talked about this, and I was very uncertain about whether or not the pinning combination should go on under that name, because Wyatt has always been a part of it with me since the beginning. And if he wasn't here, if that should be retired, but I think, and I know you felt this way, that I think it would be more of a tribute that we continue this under the name that he kind of helped build and put together and promoted. So we're going to stay with pinning combination, and a lot of that's in honor of Wyatt. And he's still with us in spirit. So with that said, we've got D1 action, D2, D3, college action across the board underway. And, so far it's been a fun a couple weekends to get things going.
Right. I guess we could probably start with that dual meet in Iowa City, huh?
Sure.
And Iowa versus Princeton. Couple of surprises there. Not in the good way, really.
Yeah, right.
I guess some of the takeaways we learned and pretty much had an idea that Iowa will probably not have their full lineup in at one time, maybe until the end of the season at tournament time. They've just got some older wrestlers and some guys that are kind of beat up. Obviously, we know Spencer Lee had a knee issue the national tournament last year, and so that might be an issue. But I think they're going to pick and choose as to when they're going to insert people into the lineup.
Yeah, and obviously you saw that last Saturday, as you mentioned. We saw Jesse Ibarra get a forfeit at 25. It sounds like he could be there. Now, Brands mentioned yesterday in the news conference, and I posted something here recently on the Gazette.com, that they just don't have a timetable right now for when he will return. Very ambiguous and vague, maybe it leaves some people guessing on whether or not they'll see Lee in upcoming duels or whatever. But I think you're probably right. We might not see him till certainly after the new year, I would guess, as he comes back. Even though media day he said he was, good, but what else do you expect? I mean, that's just what he's going to say, regardless. We saw Kobe Seabrecht at 149, who was very impressive, and we haven't seen Max Muir enlisted yet. We also, Nelson Branch was at 174. He's down there after wrestling 184 last year. Miles Wilson stepped in at 184, and Abe Assad wrestled an extra match. And then Zach Glazier was in at 197, and Tom Brand said that right now it's kind of 50-50 between Warner and Glazier for Oregon State, and 50-50 for Wilson Assad this Saturday as well. Kemmerer reportedly is getting the nod right now, but of course that could change. We've seen some things change like that over the course of a week and stuff. But you're right, Dick. I mean, they have the depth to be able to do it. You've got guys, if you look at Ironman, who was in the lineup, but Ironman and Kemmerer, who are seventh-year seniors, right now, internationally, they'd be competing internationally normally at this age. And at that time, you're not making weight every week, and you're probably wrestling, 2, 3, 4 times a year, maybe, depending on the year. So weird to say that mid-20s is kind of old, but it's something that most people their age aren't going through the rigors of weighing in every week, and wrestling 30 times a year.
Yeah. I totally agree. I think I think they're exercising caution. I mean, you have to look at number one goals. With Lee, the number one goal is get his fourth title. I mean, there's only been, 5? I'm thinking that right? 5 4-timers?
Think 4.
He's the fifth, isn't he? And so, I mean, that's an exclusive club and one that he wants to be a member of, I'm sure. And of course, the coaches obviously want him, and that's good for not only Spencer Lee, but for the program as well. So, and then, Kemmerer, again, like you said, older, and Ironman. And so their bodies are, they've got to kind of pick and choose, I think. But like you said, with the depth that, I'm not sure, when Kemmerer gets back, if he's at 74, which I'm sure he will be, I'm not so sure you don't count Brands out at 84 as well with Wilson and Assad. And Wilson's no slouch, man. I got to know him last year. He wrestled Kyle in the Greco and put a thumping on him. He's a physical kid. So.
It's interesting you mentioned that, because I did a little something. I guess I was kind of confused, but Brands almost jumped from 65 to 84 pretty much. He mentioned he'd wrestled more matches at 65 and 84 than he ever has at 74. And he admitted that 74 would be his preferred choice, but, essentially it's, I'm going to do whatever they tell me to do, and I asked him about later on the season, and he said, trying to find the direct quote here, that Nelson mentioned about, I'll know on a weekly basis probably. I have no idea right now. Right now, I'm going 74 and probably going to the Cyclone Open. That would be for this weekend, since Kemmerer is probably getting the nod. He goes, that's about all I know. He did mention that, if it's what I'm told to do, that's what I'm going to do. So I also thought that too, that, he still isn't out of the picture there to move up and wrestle 84. So,
and that's kind of the beauty of this, is that with these wrestlers getting an extra year, a bonus year, they the wrestlers that works for the guys that are getting the bonus year, but then the people below them, their spot doesn't open up. So by being able to do this, the coach brands will be able to insert different people into the lineup and get them experience and get them into the lineup. They won't be able to wrestle in the tournament, obviously, at the end of the year, but so that's a good way to keep everyone involved and keep everyone moving forward. So that's the plus side of it, I guess.
Yeah, for sure. And especially like Jesse Ibarra, you're getting a few opportunities here. You take advantage and capitalize on every one instead of going to open tournaments and just, wrestling some other competition because Spencer Lee's, ahead of you. Here you're getting chances and opportunities, and it didn't turn out that way last Saturday, obviously, because of Pat Glory not making weight or what have you with that whole situation. But I think it'll be good. There'll be good experiences and a chance to compete for him and Zach Glazier. That normally wouldn't get, Kobe Siebrecht or whether it's Vince Turker, Bretley Arena, but Siebrecht looked really good.
Yeah.
Against Princeton. We probably should address the elephant in the room, though. Pretty anticlimactic end to the duel. Tony Cassiope coming off his U23 world title, which is a heck of an accomplishment going over there. I can't remember where it was overseas. But he was able to win gold. Miles Wilson wrestled over there as well. I think maybe did not medal, but might have gotten fifth. I can't remember for sure. But anyway, Jack Del Garbino with a big upset, kind of rolling Cassiope through on a turn and catching him on the edge of the mat and putting him down for a fall.
Yeah. So my question is, with the body change that Cassiope has done over the year, do you think that is a factor wrestling these big guys, and he something that he might have been able to do, carry an extra weight, and now he's not. It's a different body type almost. Do you suppose that could be a factor, or is he did he high and off, or I don't know.
That could be because when you sag your hips down and have that extra weight, it's tougher to get rolled through, especially that situation. It was really kind of awkward because he came through the crotch there. Almost reminded me a little bit of Ben Shane when he wrestled for Warburg. He had a little move like that that would catch people. But one of the things, especially with Tom Brand saying it probably had a lot more to do with awareness, that he may have thought, hey, I'm just gonna rout this guy and dominate him. And Brands had mentioned that he had read stuff about Del Garbino, and he said the article had a lot to do with the way Del Garbino had found success with the Japanese Wizards. So he was somebody that kind of like those unorthodox throws. And he mentioned that the standing switch that he hit when Cassiope was going for his first takedown, and that showed that, I think in Tom Brand's speak, it was, you don't have them until you have it, right? That, maybe he kind of thought, he's going over, I'm going to end this, and maybe didn't respect the what Del Garbino could kind of throw at him and caught him. But
so I mean, he'll be fine. Obviously, that was a setback, but I mean, Cassioppi's he's just going to have to. He's got a different style of wrestling now. He's going to be more stealth and quicker, I'm sure, and maybe not quite as powerful, or maybe is. I don't know. But we'll see. But it's a change, so we'll have to kind of accept that. Anyway, a couple of other things at the meet. Obviously, I'm not sure if everyone remembers that Princeton didn't wrestle last year. So this is their first meet since it's been 2 seasons. So probably 2000, the end of the season in 1920, right? So so that they were probably pretty anxious and hungry to get on the mat, and did a nice job. Young's. The second thing that kind of surprised me was the margin of defeat. It did and it didn't in Young's match. But you think about it, that's a pretty high pedigree family that Princeton wrestler comes from. Monday, dad's a Olympic champion, so I guess we're surprised but not surprised. Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, and I almost want to say, let me see if I can find it here. I almost want to say that Quincy Monday may have beaten them 2 years ago.
I think you're right.
Here as well. I'll see if I can find it here. I know this is great. Monday beat them 3-2 in the 2019-2020 season. So that that was a little bit closer, but it's not necessarily surprising, but the fact that he gave up 3 takedowns, and I know Monday's very, very skilled and very good, but for an All-American, you got to be a lot stingier than that. I know there was a situation early on where Young was in on a shot and wasn't able to finish. If he was able to get that too, maybe things would be different. But I'll tell you what, Monday looked a lot quicker, just a lot better overall.
More athletic, yeah.
Yep. So,
AJ, what did you think of the results at the South Dakota State tournament? Daktronics, I think it was.
Yeah, the Daktronics Open. Very, very impressed by Iowa State and what they were able to do there. 4 champions. The one that stands out, obviously, David Carr. He wrestled well and beat Peyton Robb in sudden victory. But Peyton Robb also beat Austin O'Connor earlier. North Carolina's national champ that moved up from 49 to 57. So that's a quality win. But Kyson Tirakina, he has been very impressive here, winning titles at Grandview and South Dakota State. Beat a teammate, Bam Bam, another wrestler from Hawaii there at 125, who beat Brody Teskey in the semis. So Kyson Tirakina, very impressive. And it was good to see Jared Dagan get out to a good start as well. He won at 149, and then Zach Redding won at 41. The other one that I mentioned really quick that impressed me was Marcus Coleman at 184. He was a runner-up to Parker Keckeisen, but he had a big win over Taylor Venz in the semis that I think is a good sign for Iowa State.
Yeah, I didn't see the match or anything like that, but I saw a picture of Coleman. He looks filled out and looks solid, more so than he has been. So I think he's going to fit well at 84. We'll see.
Yeah, and it was an 8-4 decision with Keckeisen, who was impressive in his own right. Coming away, he's really picked up where he left off last season when he got third at the NCAAs. But to get that win over Venz, who's that's a big win for Coleman, and to be that close with Keckeisen, I think really bodes well. So I think this a lot of promise, a lot of potential. I I think, being showed by Iowa State here early on.
Right. Yeah, and then with Kikaisen, he's a fun, aggressive kid. He's a lot. I like watching him wrestle. He's always on the offense and really attacking on his feet. And he gets in on. If he gets your leg, he's going to have a good chance of finishing it. So he's very strong and powerful and has good position. So that was good for you and I.
Yeah, and even though Kekaisen was their only finalist, they still had a handful of guys get third. Mentioned Teskey. He bounced back. I think
Austin Yount was second also. So.
What was that?
Austin Yount was second also.
Oh, okay, I missed that.
Yeah.
The lone champ. But Yant second at 174, and then you had Teskey, Biscaglia, and then Cale Happel from Lisbon got third at 41. And then Cade Lara at 57 got third as well. So I think that's a good tournament. And I think two pretty good showings there by Iowa State and UNI.
Well, the thing I like about it is it's a D1 tournament for the most part. I think St. Cloud State was there also, but for the most part, it's a D1 school. Whereas I don't necessarily understand why this happens, but Iowa sent 2 weeks ago up to Luther, which is they were the only D1 school there, and they walked away with I think 8 champs, was it, or something like that, and maybe 7 or 8, and anyway, but they get their first competition under their belt, and so actually it was they had 7 champs in the elite division. Iowa did, and they took 21 wrestlers up there. Ybarra, DeSanto, Ironman, Seabreck. What a weight class that was. The top 3 were the Iowa kids.
Yeah.
Rena, and then Turk was third. And then Young won it, Marinelli won it, Glazier won it, and
And Marinelli had to score late to beat Patrick Kennedy.
Right.
Somebody that you're going to know really well in that Iowa lineup in the future, but he had to score late for 2 to win 3-2, I believe.
Right, that was 3-2, and I guess Glazier won over medical forfeit over Warner, so both are in the finals.
Right. So, as we mentioned, Iowa has Oregon State this weekend. Iowa State will host the Cyclone Open. Is it no longer called the Harold Nichols Open, or?
No, it's called the Harold Nichols Open still.
Okay.
It depends on which website you look on, but Iowa State has it as Harold Nichols, and on Track Wrestling it's Harold Nichols. So.
Gotcha. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so that'll be Sunday. Saturday, the varsity will host Army and California Baptist, their names. So that's what they have next on their plate, that double duel on Saturday.
But not too far away, KJ, not too far away. December 5th is the Iowa State meet. So what is that, 10 days or whatever?
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yep.
So, it's there. It's not too far away. So get ready for it, fans.
Yeah, and that's that'll be interesting because Iowa State's had some success here. To start out, you don't know what kind of lineup you're going to get from Iowa. That could be extremely interesting.
Yep. We'll talk about that probably next week a little bit, but just wanted to put that out there. It's there, so we're hot and heavy into it pretty soon.
So we discussed the D1 results and some of the upcoming things for schools here over the holiday weekend. Some other big news at the D1 level. Something that happened earlier. Iowa announced that they were starting up the first Power 5 D1 wrestling program and now they have a head coach. Clarissa Chun was announced last Thursday as the head wrestling coach for the Iowa women's program. She made an appearance at the Iowa Princeton duel and received a huge ovation. Same thing occurred at Iowa's football game against Illinois at Kinnick Stadium on Saturday. Coach, she kind of checked all the boxes as far as a hire for this post.
I was looking at her accolades, and I knew her as a wrestler, but you don't, as she's accumulating them, you don't realize to what extent she has quite a record. And honestly, I don't know that there was a better candidate out there. First of all, I think it was important personally, this is my own opinion, that they hired a woman for this program, or for this, to head this program. I just think that sends such a great message, and really, I don't know if there was a better choice out there in looking at her accolades. She's the first Hawaii state champ. In 1998, Hawaii has had girls wrestling. As the first year of girls wrestling, obviously she was at the lightest weight to be able to be the first. And so they've had it since 1998. That's 24 years ago. Iowa still doesn't have it. I mean, I think we're on the cusp of getting it real soon, but that was a shocker to me. 1998, and Hawaii's had it since then. She then went to Missouri Valley to college. That was the first girls program in the first college to have a girls program. So lots of firsts in her respect. She's been on 2 Olympic teams in 08 and 12. She's a 4-time U.S. Open champ, and she is a 5-time world member, and was a 2008 world champ as well. So, I mean, she's not only that, she was the assistant coach for the U.S. team, and the U.S. team at the cadet and junior level won the world, and they had 12 world medalists. So who better to recruit some of those world medalists at that young age? I mean, she's got a wonderful recruiting pool to bring those fabulous wrestlers to Iowa. And I'm not going to be ashamed to say this. I got to tell you, I enjoyed watching the women wrestle at the Olympic level more than I enjoyed the men. And I, of course, enjoyed the men, but they're out there and they're getting after it. And they're not afraid to sit on a lead, and they made some. They're fun to watch wrestle. So I'm excited for this to happen.
Yeah, I really remember her from the 2012 Olympic trials in Iowa City, where she earned the spot to go to London. I remember her personality and the way she wrestled. She ended up getting bronze that year. But she really does have kind of just kind of this humility to her that, there's a combination of humility and kind of hunger and competitiveness that she has. And one of the things that stood out listening to Gary Barta and Barbara Burke talk about hiring her was her passion for the sport. And not just that, but her willingness to kind of help it grow. And that's what they're kind of looking at here. She's going to be leading this program, and they also expect her to be an ambassador to kind of help grow the sport. So that really stands out. But like you said, I don't know if there is anybody that could have fit this bill more than her, because to start this program up, you needed a few things. You needed somebody that was accomplished and knows what they're doing. You need somebody with experience. Obviously her resume speaks for itself, but in addition to her as a competitor, she was on Sammy Henson's staff at West Virginia. And I think she helped run their RTC there as well. So she has this D1 experience, even though it's on the men's side. And of course, her time with Terry Steiner, with USA Wrestling. So you have all those names. And then you needed a name that would make a splash. And you mentioned all her firsts. You know, she was part of that wave in, you know, the 2000s, and, you know, that just kind of transferred into the teens of this new wave of female wrestlers that were coming through, that, you know, they weren't just women who were wrestling. These were women wrestlers, right? A little bit of a difference. And she was a part of that wave. So, you know, you have an accomplished wrestler, you have somebody with wrestling coaching experience, especially at the high level. And then you have a name that a lot of people know, a lot of people respect. And it hits on all levels that this was the right hire.
Right. And you speak of that wave, when she's won that state title in 1998, there were 2,000 girls that wrestled in the U.S.
Wow.
In 2019, there's 21,000. 2,000 to 21,000. And that's just going to grow even more now. I mean, you can see it already is. And so that wave you're talking about, she was really at the front of that, and still is. And it sounds like she's really excited to be here. And you know, it's a city and a state that loves wrestling, and it's a good fit.
It was neat to see the receptions that she got during the intermission of the wrestling duel. Same thing at Kinnick during the first quarter of that game during one of the media timeouts. The only thing I wonder now, she's wrestled in Iowa City. She's been around Iowa City. Obviously, I think she has a good relationship with the Brands brothers, and obviously, I'm sure Terry Steiner, you know, provided some advice, but wonder if you'll get the same type of fan reactions with the women's program, more notably the high standards. And, you know, sometimes Iowa fans can be critical, to say the least. You know, if she'll get that same type of reaction from Iowa fans, if they have the same type of expectations from her as they would on the men's side, and how she handles that.
Yeah, we'll have a little bit of time to wait, because the season doesn't start until the 23-24 season. Although she can recruit athletes in next year, and they can wrestle in open tournaments and such. But so that, you know, it's going to be fun to watch her build it, and I think Iowa fans understand what's going on here and the big picture. They're pretty smart. So yeah, no, but you're right. They are critical, and that's a good thing. It keeps everyone on their toes. It's what keeps the brands going, and company, and and the appearances, and all the biggest sport. So the upside, I guess, of this is what it's going to do for wrestling, girls wrestling in the state of Iowa. And I guess maybe I transition that into one of the tournaments that I officiated there earlier this year was it's called the Conflict for Charity, and it's held at the Green State Family Fieldhouse, I think it's called, and it's right next to the Extreme Arena, and beautiful facility. They had 10 mats in there. They had and Charlotte Bailey is kind of the director of that tournament, and has been I'm going to call her pioneer and the leader of girls wrestling in the state. And her daughter Jasmine wrestled at Iowa City West, and matter of fact, Collins, she wrestled one time, and and Jasmine was down at that tournament working, and it's just a real. I think there's a group. I guess I know there's a group that is kind of runs that. I think it's called Female Elite Wrestling, or that might be their club, or I'm not sure on that. But anyway, they've done it for 3 years, and this year they had 100 and let's see, I'm going to pull some numbers up. I've got it right here. They had 302 wrestlers from 7 states. One of them was from Texas, who, by the way, I believe won it, and 8 teams were from Iowa. So that's really good. So they had 14 teams at the high school level and 11 youth teams that
Wow.
competed in a dual tournament, and that's they started in 16, though in 2020 they it was canceled because of COVID. So this is their third year in existence, this tournament. The other thing that's neat about this is it's a fundraiser. So they're going to contribute $2,500 this year to the Giving Tuesday, and then that'll bring their 3-year total of donations to $12,500.
Wow.
On top of promoting the girls and all the girls that are wrestling, and it was fun to watch them. It was very competitive. So a good tournament. So kudos to Charlotte Bailey and her group down there for promoting it. And I know there's a lot of movement at the girls' union, and maybe KJ, you have some insight on that as to what's going on.
Well, I know one of their latest hires was somebody that was going to focus on that aspect and getting things rolling. It sounds like they have passed the threshold that was asked as far as the percentage and the number of teams to begin that process of sanctioning. So it's something that has now become closer and closer to a reality.
Right.
So it's looming now, and I think we're closer than ever to have that. And I think the decision in Iowa City helped accelerate that a little bit, because you have this this historic decision in the first Power 5 school in the state that high school hasn't even sanctioned yet. And I think that maybe not directly influence some things, but I think maybe there is an impression that maybe a school that was on the verge of supporting it decided, okay, let's do it now. And then that climbed those numbers up to where the union said, okay, this is what we had told you before. And,
Well, in my opinion, it was almost a little bit of egg on your face when Iowa hired Chun, and in the state of Iowa did not have a girls' high school program. So, it's kind of like,
true.
Good, state of Iowa, girls' union. So, and I know the hire, again, her name escapes me right now. She's from Panora, and her husband is the coach there. And anyway, so it's a good hire, I think, at the union. So hopefully things will get going. And I think we're probably maybe 1-2 years out there as well from sanctioning.
Right. But I think we're getting to the point now. It's like the process is beginning, as far as that goes. It seemed like it was kind of a wish a little bit, but now we're seeing this actually being a tangible, real.
Right. And some of the obstacles that have to be overcome, if they're going to have a program, do they hire a coach? And if they do, that's another expense for the school. Logistics of, when and where to practice and those sorts of things. Those are not things that those are things that can be overcome and should be. And so it's exciting. Hopefully obviously you need to have the numbers and recruit the interest. So those are things that are ongoing with the boys as well. So
the associate director that was recently hired was Aaron Kirtley. So so she was a member of the Iowa Athletic Directors Association Executive Board and current first vice president of the organization as well. So it'll be interesting to see how her impact and her contributions go.
I think that intent is to watch and see how the IWCOA runs the tournament, the state tournament. I'm thinking, why haven't they already been doing that? They
Right.
So, but that's me. I'm anxious and want it to get going.
No, well, for sure. I'm right there with you. So let's touch on, Division II, Division III are in action as well. They've been going a couple of weeks. What are some of the things that have kind of caught your attention here from the get-go?
Well, first of all, I was looking at the teams before we get into the competition and as to who is coming back, the teams that are in our area. Like, for instance, I'll just start at the top. Wartburg, who was the leader in the NWCA tournament, they didn't keep score, but was the unofficial winner. They bring everyone back. So they've got 2 champs, 4 runners up, a third and a sixth that were All-Americans down there. Loris brings 2 champs and a third, 2 fourths, and a 6 and 2 sevenths. So a lot of medalists there. Co brings back 2 champs. I don't know if I think I'll actually 3 champs. Sorry, both the Hendersons and Friddle, and then Gerke is not coming back. So that's the one that graduated. And then they also have so they had 2 champs, Henderson and Friddle, and then Brady Henderson was a runner-up. And then they also had a third, a fifth, a sixth, and 2 eighths coming back. Cornell had a couple of medalists as well that are back. And Luther had 3 medalists, Central had 2. So it's going to be fun to watch the D3 level.
Yeah, we've already seen that kind of come to play already. I know Co had a few champions at Luther that opening weekend. They hosted their own tournament this last Saturday. I think they had 4 champs there as well. A couple Eastern Iowa kids, Will S. Moyle and Jared Voss, both won titles. The one that really stands out to me so far early on, Caleb Reeves, heavyweight for Co. He's 9-0 with 9 falls. Now, I think most people know his Greco background, and it serves him well there, which leads to a lot of pins. But, he's been pretty dominant here so far. I think he's climbed to 2nd in the national rankings. Right.
I was looking yesterday at one of the sets of rankings and it had it listed by regionals. And the regional that is the national qualifier is called that our Iowa schools go to is the lower Midwest. Mm-hmm. Anyway, and so I was looking at nearly every weight class. There were 4 in the top 10, and most of them were in the top 7. In some cases, even higher. And 3 qualified. And that regional, our area is so rich in wrestling. We're going to leave national medalists, All-Americans, behind that won't get to qualify. It's just crazy. So
and that's gonna hurt. They kind of cannibalize each other. Of course, the national tournament is slated for Cedar Rapids in March, so there's going to be a lot of great wrestling here. But like you said, there are going to be some All-American caliber competitors that their last showing is going to be at Dubuque.
Yeah, sadly, because they could do some damage at the national tournament if they could even get there. So,
right.
But a couple other tournaments besides the Co-Invitational that were D3 level and D2 level in one case. The Augie Open had Division 2 and Division 3 wrestlers teams there. Upper Iowa was there for Division 2, and then I believe Minnesota Mankato was there. But they also Division 3, real good teams. Obviously Augsburg, La Crosse was there. I think I'm not sure who some of the others there, but very good quality competition there. Upper Iowa came away with 8 medalists at that tournament, and they took 21 wrestlers there, so got a lot of competition going on there. I guess they had 9 medalists. So, and then Luther took 31 wrestlers. Upper Iowa took 24 wrestlers and had 10 place in the gold division, 2 champs and 2 runners up. So they showed well up there in that tournament. Connor Manderfeld and Eric Fott were champions. So Anderlich and Lindsman were runners up. So Upper Iowa had a good showing there. And that Concordia tournament, Loris really shined. Holy cow, they had a great tournament. They had 4 champions. And that's a tough tournament. I think there's, if I remember right, 20 teams there, maybe, I think around 20 teams, and they really showed well. They had 4 champs, like I said, and a runner-up, and then Schrapp from Williamsburg was 4th. Bubba Jalen Schrapp. Anyway, yep. And then, so good showing for Loris. Wartburg was also up there. It took 21 wrestlers. Loris took 32, by the way. Okay. Wartburg had 10 medalists, and one of the champ was Mulder, and then 2 runners up, so 2 fourths. So.
And I want to say Shane Leigel from Loris was the American Rivers Conference Athlete of the Week with his performance up there. So
that is correct. Zane Mulder was a Division III. I guess that might have been last week. Division D3.com National Wrestler of the Week.
Really?
Yeah, another nice accomplishment to that.
Okay. So things are getting busy, and of course, you know, the American Rivers Conference is going to be a fun battle with those top 10 teams that you mentioned. Warburg, Loris, Toll, you know, Central,
Cornell, not large, but sorry.
Yeah, but
the lower region ones.
Yeah. So should be fun here with all the action going on, and you know, we have to watch out for Upper Iowa as well, because I think they're going to have one of their strongest teams to date. They are under Coach Grimm when they get all their pieces put together.
I think they're currently ranked 9th in one of the polls that I saw, so they're top 10 for sure.
So, all right. Any parting thoughts or anything that we didn't hit on?
I might mention local wrestler Ben Saracen from Kennedy, who wrestles for Chicago, won the co-op.
Sure. And that reminds me too, kind of seeing some, want to look this up here really quick, speaking of Iowa wrestlers, because I think Boone McDermott, I think has stepped in at Rutgers and has done some pretty good things here early on. I want to say he might have sealed a victory in one of their duels wrestling.
Had a nice throw to the back for a pin, if I remember.
Yeah. Trying to, might have been, maybe he was just to cap things off, because Rutgers has been on a roll here, and they really haven't been tested yet. So right now, looking up where he's at.
McDermott's a former Waller wrestler.
Yeah.
Good wrestler. Nice young man.
4-0 right now. He scored 21 dual points for them, and he's got 2 falls in those 4 wins. So he's done some good things there in New Jersey for Rutgers. Like you said, the former Waller wrestler that went to Iowa Central and now at Rutgers. So thanks for him.
Always pleasant to talk with him. He was at the Jayhawk Invitational for, through his high school years, and then I talked to him out at BV actually at the BV Invitational. They wrestled there. Wartburg happened to be there, and then so I'm glad to see him doing well out there. He's a nice kid.
Coming up here next week, and we'll get action next Wednesday. We'll try to give a look into what teams, individuals that we're looking forward to, and maybe even delve into the number of girls teams that have popped up, because I know City High, Bettendorf are among those teams, and we might actually even get a call female duel for KCRG 9.2 here during this season.
Keeping our fingers crossed.
Yep. So we look forward. Thanks for tuning in. Hope you stick with us the rest of the season. Coach Briggs, thank you as always. Look forward to talking to you next week as well. And do you want to give that famous tagline that we've thrown across?
Let's do it as a tribute to Wyatt this show. As always, let's keep wrestling on the move.
Thanks for watching, everybody.